I'm Bethany Coleman, and let me tell you, walking into the Buffalo Harbor Yacht Club that May morning felt like entering enemy territory. The smell of polished wood and privilege hit me harder than lake wind. "You're late." The voice cut through the morning calm like a blade. I turned to find Mackenzie Price, the infamous yacht club president, studying quarterly reports with surgical precision. Blonde hair pulled back, severe, green eyes sharp as broken glass. Everything about her screamed control. "Traffic on the Skyway," I said, not apologizing. 3 event coordinators had quit this job in 2 years. I wasn't planning to be number 4. "Traffic is predictable. Plan accordingly." She didn't look up. "The summer gala budget you submitted is ridiculous. It's ambitious. It's theater." The way she said it made my profession sound like a disease. I set my bag down harder than necessary. Sometimes theater is exactly what people need. That got her attention, those green eyes fixed on me with laser intensity. "This is a yacht club, Miss Coleman, not Broadway." The next 2 weeks were warfare disguised as workplace meetings. Mackenzie questioned every expense, every vendor, every creative choice. I'd catch her watching me during presentations, her expression unreadable. The other staff whispered about her reputation for being impossible to please. "She drove away Patricia in 6 months," confided Janet from accounting. And Patricia survived 20 years in corporate catering. But something didn't add up. Late one evening, walking past the theater district after our latest budget battle, I spotted a familiar silhouette in the back row of the alleyway theater. Mackenzie Price, watching our production of Tennessee Williams with complete absorption. When I took my bow, our eyes met for a split second before she vanished into the crowd. The breakthrough came during Buffalo's Spring Arts Festival. I was browsing vendor booths during lunch break when I found myself mesmerized by an elderly craftsman's intricate ships and bottles. Each one was perfect miniature maritime history. The detail is extraordinary. The voice beside me was softer than I'd ever heard it. Mackenzie stood there, professional armor temporarily dropped, studying a 3-masted schooner trapped in glass. "My grandfather built ships, real ones, but these capture something else. The dream of sailing," I said. "The impossible made possible." She glanced at me, something flickering behind those green eyes. "Exactly." We stood there in comfortable silence, 2 women who'd been circling each other like wary cats, finding unexpected common ground in captured dreams. "The gala budget," she said finally. "Show me the revised numbers tomorrow." "Which numbers?" A ghost of a smile. "The ambitious ones." That night, planning became different. Her office felt smaller, more intimate. Coffee replaced confrontation. I noticed things I'd missed before. The way she unconsciously tucked hair behind her ear when thinking, how her voice dropped when she was genuinely interested. "Why theater?" she asked during one late session. "Why yachts?" "Control," she said immediately. "On water, you're responsible for everything. Your crew, your course, your survival. Theater's the opposite. You surrender control to the story. Let it carry you." She was quiet for a long moment. "That sounds terrifying." "It is. But it's also freedom." Something shifted between us that night. The air felt charged, dangerous. When she handed me a pen, our fingers brushed. Neither of us moved away. "Bethany." My name sounded different in her voice. "Yes?" The moment stretched taut as sail rope. Then her professional mask snapped back into place. "Meeting's over. Good work today." But as I gathered my papers, I caught her watching me again. This time she didn't look away. Walking to my car, I realized the game had changed completely. This wasn't about budgets or galas anymore. This was about something far more dangerous, something that could sink us both if we weren't careful. The harbor gleamed under streetlights, boats bobbing at anchor like dreams waiting to sail. I thought about captured ships and impossible possibilities, about a woman whose control might be hiding something worth surrendering for. Whatever was happening between Mackenzie Price and me, we'd crossed into uncharted waters. The morning after our moment at the Arts Festival, Mackenzie was back to being ice-cold professional. But something had cracked in her armor, and I intended to exploit it. "The summer gala needs a complete overhaul," I announced, walking into her office with my revised proposal. "We're talking about transforming the entire waterfront into an immersive experience." Her pen stopped moving across the budget sheet. "Define immersive." live chamber music on floating platforms, dinner served aboard 3 different yachts, synchronized lighting across the harbor. The insurance alone would bankrupt us. The sponsorship revenue would triple our usual intake. She leaned back in her leather chair, those green eyes calculating. You're either brilliant or completely insane. Why can't I be both? The ghost of a smile flickered across her lips before vanishing. Show me the numbers. 3 hours later, we'd battled over every line item. But instead of the usual tension, something else was building between us. I found myself leaning closer when explaining vendor contracts, catching hints of her perfume. She'd pause longer than necessary when our hands accidentally touched over the same document. The music budget is still excessive, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. You haven't heard the Buffalo Philharmonic perform on Water at Sunset. And you have? No. But I can imagine it, can't you? She stared at me for a long moment. You're dangerous, Bethany Coleman. That evening, curiosity drove me to check the theater schedule. Mackenzie had attended 3 of my performances in 2 weeks. Tonight was our final show of the season, and I found myself scanning the back row during intermission. Empty. Disappointment hit harder than it should have. But after curtain call, Janet from the yacht club appeared backstage. Someone wanted me to give you this. A single white rose with a note. Brilliant and insane. Break a leg. M. My hands were shaking as I changed out of costume. She'd been there, watching, caring enough to send congratulations but too scared to deliver them personally. The next morning, I found her already in the office at 6 a.m., surrounded by spreadsheets and coffee cups. You were there last night, I said without preamble. She didn't deny it. You're a remarkable actress. Then why did you sneak out? Her jaw tightened. Because I'm your supervisor. Because this club has rules. Because? She turned away, staring out at the harbor where early morning sailors were preparing their boats. Because I've never wanted something I couldn't control. The honesty in her voice stripped away all my defenses. I moved closer, close enough to see the vulnerability she was fighting to hide. Mackenzie. She turned, and suddenly we were inches apart. I could see golden flecks in those green eyes, could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. This is a mistake, she whispered. Probably. But neither of us moved away. The morning light streaming through her office windows caught the blonde highlights in her hair, made her look softer somehow, more human. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. Do what? Want someone. Really want them. My heart hammered against my ribs. It's terrifying. Yes. The space between us crackled with electricity. I could smell her perfume, something subtle and expensive. Could see the pulse beating at the base of her throat. Bethany. My name was barely a breath. I leaned forward, drawn by invisible threads. Her eyes fluttered closed. Our lips were almost touching when her phone rang, shattering the moment like dropped glass. She jerked backward, professional mask slamming back into place. Mackenzie Price. I stood there, pulse racing, watching her transform back into the untouchable yacht club president. But I'd seen beneath the surface now, had felt her want matching mine. When she hung up, neither of us spoke. The moment was gone, but its echo lingered in the charged air between us. The catering contract needs review, she said finally, not meeting my eyes. Of course. But as I gathered my papers, I caught her reflection in her office window. She was watching me with naked longing, her professional composure cracking again. This wasn't over. Whatever was building between us was too powerful to ignore, too real to dismiss as workplace attraction. We were playing with fire, and we both knew it. That night, I lay awake replaying every moment, every look, every almost kiss. Mackenzie Price was a puzzle I was determined to solve, a fortress I was already halfway inside. The question was, when those walls finally came down, would we both survive the fall? The yacht club's monthly board presentation should have been routine. I'd given dozens of event updates, but standing at the front of the mahogany-paneled conference room, I was acutely aware of Mackenzie's eyes tracking my every movement. The gala pre-sales exceed projections by 40%, I reported, clicking to the next slide. Corporate sponsorships are up 60% from last year. Board member Harrison Price nodded approvingly. Exceptional work, Ms. Coleman. But I wasn't watching Harrison. I was watching Mackenzie, who sat perfectly still until our eyes met. Her gaze lingered on my lips for a fraction too long before snapping away. The hunger I saw there made my voice catch mid-sentence. The, entertainment schedule is finalized. After the meeting, she cornered me by the coffee station. You were distracted up there. Was I? She stepped closer, close enough that I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers gripped her coffee cup like an anchor. People notice things, Bethany. What kind of things? Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. The way you look at me. The way I can't seem to stop looking back. My pulse thundered. And that's a problem? It could destroy everything we've built here. My reputation, your career, the whole damn project. But even as she said it, she was moving closer. I could smell her perfume, see the conflict raging behind those green eyes. Maybe some things are worth the risk, I said. Her laugh was bitter. Says the woman who has nothing to lose. That stung. You think this job means nothing to me? You think I'm playing games? I think you're young and fearless, and you don't understand what happens when scandal hits a place like this. I'm not some naive kid, Mackenzie. I've worked for every opportunity I've gotten. Something shifted in her expression. The coldness cracked, revealing the fear underneath. I know. That's what makes this so damn complicated. For the next week, we danced around each other like opposing magnets. Professional meetings became exercises in restraint. Every accidental touch sent electricity shooting through my system. Every shared smile felt like a secret conspiracy. The breaking point came during our final late-night planning session. The gala was 2 weeks away, and we'd been working until almost midnight, alone in her office with the harbor lights glittering beyond the windows. The final head count came in, I said, sliding the paper across her desk. 340 confirmed. Our fingers brushed as she took it. Neither of us pulled away. Bethany. Her voice was rough with exhaustion and something deeper. Yes? This can't happen. We both know it can't happen. But she wasn't letting go of my hand. Her thumb traced across my knuckles, sending shivers up my arm. Why? I whispered. Because I'm your boss. Because this place will eat us alive if we give them ammunition. Because I care about you too much to let you get destroyed by association with me. The vulnerability in her voice shattered my last defenses. I stood, still holding her hand, and moved around the desk. She swiveled in her chair to face me, green eyes wide and uncertain. What if I don't care about the consequences? You should. But her hands found my waist, pulling me closer until I was standing between her knees. The rational part of my brain screamed warnings, but my body had already made its choice. Mackenzie? She looked up at me like I was both salvation and damnation. Tell me to stop. Instead, I cupped her face in my hands, feeling the silk of her skin, the slight tremor that betrayed her control. I can't. When our lips finally met, it was nothing like the tentative, almost kiss from before. This was desperate, hungry, months of denied attraction exploding into something that felt like drowning and flying at the same time. Her hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, deeper. We kissed like we were trying to consume each other, like the world outside her office didn't exist. She tasted like coffee and mint, and something uniquely her that made my knees go weak. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, her eyes were wild with panic. Damn it. She pushed back from her desk, running shaking hands through her hair. This is exactly what I said wouldn't happen. I was still reeling, lips burning from her kiss, but her sudden retreat felt like a slap. Mackenzie, wait. No. This was a mistake. A huge damn mistake. She was already gathering her papers, shutting down, walls slamming back into place faster than I could process. It didn't feel like a mistake. She froze, back still turned to me. What it felt like doesn't matter. What matters is that it can never happen again. You don't mean that. When she finally turned around, her expression was cold as winter lake water. I mean every word. We're professionals, Ms. Coleman. Let's act like it. The formal address hit like a physical blow. In 30 seconds, she'd reduced everything between us to polite workplace distance. Fine, I managed. Professional it is. But as I gathered my things and headed for the door, I caught her reflection in the window again. She was watching me leave with an expression of pure anguish, her composure cracking the moment she thought I couldn't see. We were both lying to ourselves, and we both knew it. The transformation was surgical in its precision. Overnight, Mackenzie Price became a stranger wearing a familiar face. Our morning meeting felt like negotiating with a corporate robot. "The vendor contracts need final signatures," she said without looking up from her paperwork. "Marketing materials require approval. Security protocols must be reviewed." I sat across from her desk, studying the woman who'd kissed me like her life depended on it 3 days ago. Nothing in her expression suggested it had ever happened. "The photographers want access to the restricted dock area," I said, testing the waters. "Denied. The shot would be incredible. Sunset through the rigging." "I said denied, Miss Coleman." "Ms. Coleman." The formal address was a knife twist every time. "Fine. What about the VIP reception layout?" She slid a red-marked floor plan across the desk without our fingers touching. "These are the acceptable modifications." I studied her handiwork. She'd systematically dismantled every creative element I'd fought for, reducing the elegant flow to sterile functionality. "This looks like a corporate cafeteria." "It looks professional." The emphasis on that last word was unmistakable. I leaned back in my chair, finally understanding her game. "Is that what we're calling it now? Professional?" Her pen stopped moving. For a split second, I saw her mask slip, saw the woman underneath who was fighting just as hard as I was to pretend nothing had changed. "That's what we've always been calling it." But her voice betrayed her, rough around the edges like she'd swallowed broken glass. The rest of the week continued in the same vein. Mackenzie treated me with polite indifference, reducing our interactions to necessary business only. She stopped attending my theater rehearsals, stopped working late, stopped doing anything that might put us alone together. The other staff noticed. "Did you two have a falling out?" Janet whispered during lunch break. "The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife." "We're both stressed about the gala," I lied. But even I could feel it, the charged atmosphere whenever we were in the same room, like storm clouds gathering before a lightning strike. Other board members exchanged glances during meetings, sensing the shift without understanding its cause. I threw myself into work with desperate intensity. Vendor calls, site inspections, endless detail coordination, anything to avoid thinking about green eyes and strawberry blonde hair, about the way she'd whispered my name before pulling me into that kiss. By Thursday, I'd had enough of the Cold War. I cornered her after a vendor meeting, when the conference room had emptied except for us. "We need to talk." "No, we don't." She was already packing her briefcase, movements sharp and efficient. "This isn't working, Mackenzie. The whole staff can feel the tension." "Then maybe you should consider if this position is the right fit." The words hit like a physical blow. "Are you firing me?" She finally looked directly at me, and I saw the pain she was hiding behind professional ice. "I'm suggesting that some situations become untenable. Because of one kiss? Because of what that kiss represents. Because of what it could lead to. Because I can't—" She stopped herself, jaw clenching. "Can't what?" "Can't be in the same room with you without wanting things I have no right to want." The admission hung between us like a confession. I stepped closer, watching her fight to maintain distance. "What if I want the same things?" "It doesn't matter what you want. It doesn't matter what I want. There are consequences, Bethany, real consequences." "Like what?" "Like Harrison Price calling me into his office yesterday to discuss concerns about workplace propriety raised by certain board members, like whispers in the marina about the yacht club president's inappropriate relationship with her female subordinate." My stomach dropped. They don't know anything. They know enough. They know we work late together. They know you're gay. They know I've never been married, never been seen with a man. "So?" Her laugh was bitter. "So this is Buffalo, not San Francisco. So this yacht club has been a bastion of traditional values for 70 years. So my position here depends on maintaining an image of respectability that doesn't include scandalous affairs with employees." I sank into a chair, the full weight of our situation finally hitting me. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we end this before it destroys both our careers." But even as she said it, she was moving closer, drawn by the same invisible force that had been pulling us together from the beginning. "And if I quit? If I found another job?" You love this work. This gala is your masterpiece. I'd rather have... Don't. Her voice cracked. Don't say it. Don't make this harder than it already is. The space between us felt charged with electricity. I could see the pulse hammering at her throat, could see her hands trembling slightly as she gripped her briefcase. Mackenzie. I can't. But she wasn't moving away. I can't risk everything I've built here. The club, my reputation, my whole damn life. What about happiness? What about love? The word fell between us like a bomb. Her eyes went wide, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. Love? She whispered. I stood, closing the distance between us until she was backed against the conference table. Yes. Love. Her breathing was shallow, uneven. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. When I reached up to touch her face, she didn't pull away. Her eyes fluttered closed, and she leaned into my palm like a woman dying of thirst. This will destroy us, she whispered. Maybe. Or maybe it'll save us. The kiss was different this time, slower, deeper, tinged with desperation, and the knowledge that it might be our last. She tasted like regret and possibility, like everything I wanted and couldn't have. When we broke apart, her forehead rested against mine, both of us breathing hard. I'm scared, she admitted. So am I. What do we do? Before I could answer, footsteps echoed in the hallway. We sprang apart like guilty teenagers as Harrison Price appeared in the doorway. Working late again? His tone was casual, but his eyes were sharp, calculating. Final gala preparations, Mackenzie said smoothly, but I could see the panic behind her composure. Excellent. The board is very pleased with the progress. After he left, we stood in silence, the weight of discovery hanging over us like a sword. That settles it, she said finally. This ends now. But the look in her eyes told a different story. We were playing with fire in a powder keg, and we both knew it was already too late to stop the explosion. The morning of the gala dress rehearsal, I was arranging centerpieces when a familiar laugh cut through the yacht club's bustle. My blood turned to ice. Sarah Martinez stood in the entrance, red hair catching the morning light, wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She'd always known how to make an entrance. Bethany, baby, look at you. Playing house with the yacht club elite. 5 years vanished in an instant. I was 24 again, naive and desperate to believe her lies about leaving her wife, about choosing me, about the future we'd never have. Sarah, what are you doing here? Can't a girl visit her favorite ex? Her smile was sharp as broken glass. Besides, I heard through the grapevine that you landed some fancy event coordinator position. Thought I'd see how the other half lives. Mackenzie appeared at my shoulder, her presence both comforting and dangerous. Miss Coleman, is there a problem? Sarah's eyes lit up with calculating interest. And you must be the famous Mackenzie Price. I've heard so much about you. I'm sorry, you are? Sarah Martinez. Bethany's, well, let's call it ancient history. She extended a manicured hand. We were quite close once upon a time. I watched Mackenzie's professional mask slide into place, but not before I caught the flash of something darker in her green eyes. I see. Well, we're quite busy with final preparations. Oh, I wouldn't dream of interfering. Sarah's voice dripped false sweetness. I just wanted to catch up with dear Bethany. Maybe we could grab coffee later, like old times? I'm working, I said flatly. Of course you are. Always so dedicated to your little projects. The condescension in her tone made my jaw clench. But surely you can spare an hour for someone who meant so much to you? Mackenzie's hand brushed mine, so briefly I almost missed it. The rehearsal runs until 7. After that, Miss Coleman's time is her own. It was a dismissal, but Sarah didn't take the hint. Instead, she settled into a chair near the bar, ordering an expensive vodka tonic, and making herself at home. For the next several hours, she watched everything. Every interaction between Mackenzie and me, every glance, every moment of professional intimacy. Her presence was like poison in the air, making me hyper-aware of every movement. Your boss is quite attractive, she commented when I passed her table during a break. Very authoritative. I can see the appeal. Sarah, whatever game you're playing. No game, baby, just observing. You always did have a type. Her smile was vicious, Powerful women who think they can save you from yourself. The rehearsal went smoothly despite my distraction, but I could feel Sarah's eyes on me throughout. When it ended, she was waiting by the exit like a spider in her web. "Now we can talk properly," she said, linking her arm through mine like we were old friends. "There's a lovely little wine bar down the street." I tried to pull away, but her grip tightened. I said I was working. And I said we need to talk. About old times. About secrets. About the kinds of things that could make life very complicated for someone trying to build a respectable career. The threat was unmistakable. My stomach clenched with familiar dread. The wine bar was dimly lit, intimate in a way that felt claustrophobic with Sarah across from me. She ordered a bottle of expensive Pinot Noir, playing the part of the successful businesswoman celebrating a reunion. "You look good, Beth. Success suits you." She leaned forward, voice dropping to that intimate tone I'd once found irresistible. "I've missed you." "No, you haven't. You've missed what I could do for you." Her laugh was rueful, always so cynical. "That's what I loved about you. You loved my apartment, my connections, my willingness to believe your lies about leaving Maria." That wasn't a lie, not entirely. She reached across the table, fingers brushing mine. "Things are different now. Maria and I are done. Officially done. And I'm here, looking for a fresh start, maybe with someone who understands me." The familiar manipulation made my skin crawl. "Let me guess, you need money, or a job, or both." Her smile faltered for just a moment. "I'm launching a new consulting firm, high-end event planning for corporate clients, very exclusive. And you want me to recommend you to my contacts? I want us to be partners, like we should have been before." Her hand covered mine completely. "Think about it, Beth. We made such a good team. We made a toxic mess. That was different. We were young, confused. I was still figuring things out with Maria. You were cheating on your wife with me while promising to leave her. There's nothing to figure out about that." Her grip tightened, fingernails digging into my skin. "Don't be difficult, baby. We both know you're not in a position to make enemies right now." What's that supposed to mean? It means small towns have big mouths. It means yacht clubs have very traditional values. It means your cozy little relationship with the Ice Queen president might not look so professional to the wrong people. My blood went cold. "You don't know anything." "I know enough. I have eyes, Beth. I can see the way she looks at you, the way you look at her. I can see the tension thick enough to cut with a knife." She leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper. "I can see two women playing with fire in a place that would destroy them both if the right people found out." "You're fishing." "Am I?" Because Harrison Price seemed very interested when I mentioned my concerns about workplace propriety during my little chat with him this evening. The room spun. "You talked to Harrison?" "Lovely man. Very concerned about the yacht club's reputation. Very grateful for concerned community members who bring potential issues to his attention." I yanked my hand away, standing so quickly my chair scraped against the floor. "You vindictive?" "Careful, baby. People are watching." Her smile was pure malice. "Sit down. Let's discuss this like civilized adults." I had no choice. Heart pounding, I sat back down, trapped by her web of threats and implications. "What do you want?" "I told you. A partnership. A chance to rebuild what we had. A fresh start for both of us." "And if I refuse?" "Then I might have to share more detailed observations with Mr. Price. About late-night meetings. About the way your boss's composure cracks when she looks at you. About the kinds of scandals that could destroy careers and reputations." The wine tasted like ash in my mouth. Sarah had always been ruthless, but this felt different, desperate, dangerous. "I need time to think." "Of course you do. Take all the time you need." She raised her glass in a mock toast. "Just remember, baby, some opportunities don't come twice, and some secrets don't stay buried forever." Walking back to my apartment, I felt like I was drowning in quicksand. Every step forward pulled me deeper into Sarah's trap. Mackenzie's career, my own future, everything we'd built was hanging by a thread, and my manipulative ex-girlfriend held the scissors. I had no idea how to tell Mackenzie that our worst fears were coming true, that the past had caught up with us in the most destructive way possible. The gala was tomorrow night, our masterpiece, our moment of triumph. And Sarah Martinez was going to destroy it all. I didn't sleep. Tossing in bed until dawn, I rehearsed the conversation with Mackenzie 1,000 times, each version ending in disaster. How do you tell someone that your toxic ex is threatening to destroy both your careers? The gala setup began at 6 a.m. I arrived to find Mackenzie already directing vendors, her blonde hair pulled back in a high ponytail, looking every inch the competent executive. When she saw me, concern flickered across her face. "You look terrible." "Thanks. That's exactly what I needed to hear." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "What happened last night, after you left with that woman?" Before I could answer, Sarah's voice cut through the morning air. "Good morning, ladies. Ready for the big day?" She'd arrived dressed in staff colors, black slacks and white shirt, like she belonged here. Harrison Price walked beside her, actually smiling at something she'd said. "Miss Martinez has generously offered to volunteer today," Harrison announced. "She has extensive event experience." I watched Mackenzie's professional mask slide into place, but her eyes were ice cold. How thoughtful. "Though we have sufficient staff." "Nonsense. Extra hands are always welcome." Sarah's smile was poisonous sweetness. "I'm particularly good at handling delicate situations." The threat was unmistakable. Mackenzie caught it too, her jaw tightening imperceptibly. "Of course, Bethany can assign you duties." The next few hours were torture. Sarah positioned herself strategically, always within earshot when Mackenzie and I needed to communicate. Every professional exchange felt loaded with hidden meaning under her watchful gaze. "The lighting crew needs access to the restricted dock," I told Mackenzie during our noon check-in. "Approved. What about security protocols?" "Finalized. The photographer wants to know about—" "Ladies, you're working so beautifully together," Sarah interrupted, sliding up beside us. "Such perfect synchronization. You must spend a lot of time collaborating." Mackenzie's knuckles went white around her clipboard. "If you'll excuse us, we have work to finish." "Of course. Don't let me interrupt such important business." After Sarah walked away, Mackenzie grabbed my arm. "We need to talk. My office. Now." The moment her door closed, she whirled on me. "What the hell is going on? Who is she really?" "She's exactly what she appears to be. My ex-girlfriend. And she's here to destroy us." "Explain." I told her everything. Sarah's threats, her conversation with Harrison, her demand for partnership or else. Watching Mackenzie's expression grow darker with each revelation was like watching storm clouds gather. "She's blackmailing you." "Yes." "With what? We haven't done anything except kiss, twice." "But she doesn't need facts, just suspicion. And she's already poisoned Harrison's mind." Mackenzie sank into her chair, running both hands through her hair. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. Everything I warned you about." "I know." "Do you?" "Because my career isn't just some job I can walk away from. This yacht club, this position, it's everything I've worked for. My reputation in this industry, my financial security, my entire identity." The desperation in her voice cut deep. "You think I don't understand stakes? I think you're young and idealistic, and you don't realize how quickly whisper campaigns destroy lives in places like this. I'm not naive, Mackenzie. I know exactly what we're risking." "Then why didn't you tell me about her last night?" "Because I was hoping I could handle it myself. Because I didn't want to panic you. Because what?" "Because I love you, and I was trying to protect you." The words hung between us like a live wire. Mackenzie's eyes went wide, vulnerable. "Bethany, it's true. I love you. I love your brilliance, your strength, the way you fight for everything you believe in. I love how you pretend to be cold, but you're actually the most passionate person I've ever met." She stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "You can't love me. Not now. Not like this." "Why? Because it's inconvenient? Because it complicates your perfectly ordered world?" She spun around, green eyes blazing. "Because love isn't enough. Because wanting something doesn't make it possible. Because sometimes the cost is too damn high." A knock interrupted us. Harrison Price entered without waiting for permission, his expression grim. "We have a situation. Several board members have raised concerns about tonight's event, about the appropriateness of certain working relationships." My heart plummeted. Beside me, Mackenzie went rigid. "What concerns?" she asked carefully. "Concerns about professional boundaries, about the yacht club's reputation, about leadership that appears to prioritize personal interests over institutional integrity. The formal language couldn't disguise the threat. Harrison was giving Mackenzie a chance to distance herself from me, to save her position by sacrificing whatever we had. I see. Her voice was arctic. And what would the board suggest? A formal review of recent personnel decisions, particularly regarding event coordination. There's some question about whether the current arrangement serves the club's best interests. Translation, fire me, or we'll fire both of us. That won't be necessary, Mackenzie said quietly. I'll handle the situation appropriately. After Harrison left, we stood in crushing silence. I could see her retreating, building walls around herself like a fortress under siege. You're going to fire me. I'm going to do what's necessary to protect the yacht club's interests. What about protecting us? She wouldn't meet my eyes. There is no us. There never was. It was all a mistake, a moment of weakness that got out of hand. The coldness in her voice was designed to hurt, but I could hear the tremor underneath. She was lying to both of us. Look at me. Bethany, look at me and tell me you feel nothing. When she finally turned, tears glittered in her green eyes. What I feel doesn't matter. It's the only thing that matters. No. It's the thing that's going to destroy everything if we don't stop this now. Before I could respond, shouting erupted from the main hall. We rushed out to find Sarah at the center of a crowd, gesticulating dramatically. I'm simply concerned about the yacht club's reputation, she was saying to a cluster of board members. When staff relationships become inappropriate, it affects everyone. She'd gone nuclear. No more subtle threats or private manipulations. She was burning everything down in public, forcing the confrontation she'd been building toward. Mackenzie stepped forward, every inch the commanding president. Miss Martinez, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Have there been? Because what I've observed suggests serious questions about professional conduct. The crowd was growing. Staff members, vendors, early arriving guests for the gala setup. Everyone staring, whispering, watching our lives implode in real time. Perhaps we should discuss this privately, Mackenzie said. Privacy seems to be part of the problem. Sarah's voice carried clearly across the room. When leadership believes rules don't apply to them. That's when I saw something change in Mackenzie's expression. The fear and panic hardened into something colder, more dangerous. She'd reached her breaking point. You're absolutely right, she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. Let's discuss this openly, all of it. My blood went cold. Whatever she was planning, it was either going to save us or destroy us completely. And I had no idea which. The yacht club's main hall fell silent as Mackenzie stepped into the center of the growing crowd. Every board member, staff person, and vendor stopped what they were doing to watch. Sarah's smug expression faltered slightly. This wasn't going according to her script. Miss Martinez raises important questions about professional conduct, Mackenzie said, her voice carrying with executive authority. Questions that deserve transparent answers. Harrison Price moved forward, clearly uncomfortable with the public spectacle. Mackenzie, perhaps we should... No. If there are concerns about my leadership, about my decisions, about my integrity, then let's address them openly. She turned to face Sarah directly. Please, share your specific observations with everyone. Sarah's smile grew predatory. Well, I've noticed an unusual level of intimacy between certain staff members. Late-night meetings, preferential treatment, personal conversations that seem to cross professional boundaries. Intimacy. Mackenzie repeated the word like she was tasting poison. That's an interesting choice of language. Care to be more specific? I wanted to grab Mackenzie's arm, to stop whatever dangerous game she was playing, but I was frozen in place, watching our lives hang in the balance. I think we all know what I mean, Sarah said, her voice dripping insinuation. Actually, I don't think we do. Are you suggesting that I've behaved inappropriately with Miss Coleman? The directness of the question caught everyone off guard. Sarah blinked, momentarily thrown by Mackenzie's refusal to play the subtle game. I'm suggesting that certain relationships here appear unprofessional. Based on what evidence? Sarah's confidence wavered. She'd expected denials, deflection, the usual dance of damaged reputations. Not this frontal assault. Based on observation. Based on the way you two interact, the special treatment, the obvious. The obvious what? Mackenzie's voice was ice-cold patience. Please, enlighten us all about what's so obvious. The obvious attraction between you. The words exploded into the silence like a bomb. Several board members exchanged uncomfortable glances. Staff members suddenly found their shoes fascinating. Mackenzie nodded slowly. I see. And you think this attraction, assuming it exists, represents some kind of misconduct? Of course it does. You're her supervisor, her superior. The power dynamics alone make any relationship inherently exploitative? Yes. Even if both parties are consenting adults? Even if both parties have genuine feelings for each other? Even if the relationship develops naturally over months of working together? My heart stopped. She wasn't denying anything. She was walking straight into the trap, but somehow making it sound like a choice rather than a surrender. Harrison stepped forward again. Mackenzie, I really think... You think what, Harrison? That love is unprofessional? That attraction between two women is somehow more scandalous than the affairs half this board has had over the years? Gasps rippled through the crowd. This was no longer about Sarah's accusations. Mackenzie was launching a counter-offensive. That's completely different, Harrison sputtered. Is it? Because I seem to remember a certain board member who left his wife for his secretary, and another who's been sleeping with the marina manager for 3 years. But somehow those relationships don't threaten the club's precious reputation. Sarah tried to regain control. This isn't about other people. No, it's about me, and about Bethany, and about your desperate attempt to manipulate a situation you know nothing about for your own pathetic ends. The shift was electric. Suddenly Sarah was on the defensive, no longer the concerned whistleblower but the obvious outsider causing trouble. You don't know what you're talking about, Sarah said, but her voice lacked conviction. Don't I? You show up out of nowhere, claiming to be Bethany's ex-girlfriend. You worm your way into our event as a volunteer. You make veiled threats and insinuations. And now you're trying to destroy 2 careers because what? Because the woman you once manipulated has moved on to someone better? The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I saw recognition dawn on several faces. This wasn't about professional conduct anymore. This was about a bitter ex-girlfriend trying to sabotage her former lover's happiness. That's not, I never... Sarah stumbled over her words. You never what? Never cheated on your wife with Bethany? Never promised to leave your marriage and then didn't? Never used her connections and then discarded her when someone more useful came along? Each accusation hit like a physical blow. Sarah's face went white, then red with rage. You have no right. I have every right to defend my employee from harassment, from manipulation, from someone whose business practices are questionable enough that she has to resort to blackmail to get work. My business practices are currently under investigation by the Better Business Bureau in Toledo for breach of contract and fraudulent billing. Did you think we wouldn't do our homework on someone trying to partner with our events program? The crowd was fully on Mackenzie's side now. Sarah looked around desperately, realizing her carefully constructed attack was crumbling into obvious vindictiveness. This is ridiculous, she said finally. I came here out of concern. You came here out of greed and spite, and you picked the wrong target. Mackenzie turned to address the entire group. Yes, I have feelings for Bethany Coleman. Yes, those feelings have complicated our working relationship, but they have never, not once, affected my professional judgment or her job performance. If anything, they've made me hold her to higher standards, push her to be better, expect more from her work. She paused, letting that sink in. The summer gala you're all preparing for? It's the most ambitious, successful fundraiser in this club's 70-year history. Corporate sponsorship is up 60%. Pre-sales exceeded projections. We're sold out with a waiting list. That's Bethany's work. That's her vision, her talent, her dedication. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the staff. They'd all seen the numbers, all witnessed the transformation of a routine event into something spectacular. So if someone wants to question my judgment, my leadership, my integrity over personal feelings, fine. But don't question her qualifications. Don't question her contributions. And don't let some bitter ex-girlfriend destroy what we've built together. The applause started slowly. Janet from accounting first, then the catering manager, then more staff members joining in. Even a few board members nodded approvingly. Sarah stood in the middle of it all, her manipulation exposed, her threats neutered by Mackenzie's refusal to be ashamed or afraid. This isn't over, she hissed at me as she pushed through the crowd toward the exit. But it was over. Everyone could see it. Her power had evaporated the moment Mackenzie chose courage over fear, honesty over hiding. After the crowd dispersed, Mackenzie and I stood alone in the suddenly quiet hall. The weight of what had just happened settled between us like dust after an explosion. "You destroyed your career for me," I said quietly. "No. I saved it. And maybe I saved us too." She moved closer, close enough that I could see the exhaustion in her green eyes, the adrenaline crash beginning to hit. "That was incredibly brave and incredibly stupid." "Yeah. It was." "I love you too," she said simply. "I love you too much to keep pretending I don't. Too much to let fear make my decisions." When she kissed me this time, it was different. Not desperate or stolen, but deliberate. A choice made in full view of consequences, with nothing left to hide. "What happens now?" I whispered against her lips. "Now we finish our gala. We show everyone what we can accomplish together, and then we figure out how to build something real without letting it destroy what we've worked for." The late afternoon sun streamed through the yacht club windows, illuminating dust motes that danced like celebration confetti. In a few hours, 300 guests would arrive for the culmination of months of planning. But right now, it was just us. Two women who'd chosen love over fear, honesty over safety, each other over everything else. It wasn't the ending I'd expected. It was infinitely better. The Buffalo Harbor Yacht Club Gala was everything we'd envisioned and more. 300 guests mingled on floating platforms while chamber music drifted across the water. Yachts decorated with synchronized lighting created a maritime fairy tale against the summer sunset. But the real triumph wasn't the event. It was watching Mackenzie work the crowd with newfound confidence, my hand in hers, no longer hiding what we meant to each other. "The sponsorship letters are already coming in for next year," Harrison Price told us during dinner service. His attitude had shifted completely since Mackenzie's public stand. "The board voted unanimously to approve your new event consulting division." I squeezed Mackenzie's hand under the table. We'd pitched the idea that morning, a semi-independent venture that would let us work together while giving us more freedom from yacht club politics. "There's just one condition," Harrison continued. "The board expects the same level of discretion and professionalism you've always maintained. Translation, be gay quietly, and we'll pretend to be progressive. Not ideal, but workable." "Of course," Mackenzie replied smoothly. "Professional excellence has always been our priority." After Harrison left, she leaned close to my ear. "Ready to be business partners officially? Are you sure? Mixing business with pleasure can be complicated." Her laugh was warm against my neck. "Sweetheart, we've been doing that for months. Might as well make it profitable." The evening was winding down when Janet from accounting approached with a concerned expression. "There's a problem with the final headcount payment. The credit system crashed, and we need manual approval for the catering balance." "How much?" Mackenzie asked. $12,000. The catering company needs payment tonight, or they'll add penalty fees." I watched Mackenzie's business mind engage, calculating solutions. "The emergency account has authorization. I can transfer—" "Actually," I interrupted, "I think I have a better solution." 20 minutes later, I was on stage with the yacht club's borrowed microphone, looking out at 300 slightly tipsy, very satisfied guests. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we close this magnificent evening, I want to share something special. This gala represents more than just fundraising. It represents what's possible when people work together with passion and commitment." I found Mackenzie in the crowd, her green eyes shining with curiosity and something deeper. 6 months ago, I was a struggling actress taking whatever work I could find. Tonight, I'm standing here as the CEO-founder of Price Coleman Event Consulting, ready to create experiences like this for clients throughout Western New York. Applause rippled through the crowd. Several guests pulled out business cards immediately. But more importantly, I'm standing here with someone who taught me that love and success aren't mutually exclusive, that professional excellence and personal happiness can coexist, that sometimes the biggest risk is not taking any risks at all. Mackenzie's smile could have powered the harbor lights. "So as we close this evening, I want to announce that all proceeds from tonight's silent auction, $38,000, will go toward establishing the Buffalo Maritime Arts Foundation, supporting young artists and performers in our community." The applause was thunderous. I'd just committed us to a major charitable endeavor without consulting Mackenzie, but her expression told me she approved completely. Later, as we supervised the cleanup, she pulled me aside. 38,000 for a foundation none of us mentioned? The money was there, the need is real, and Price Coleman needs a signature cause. Price Coleman? Unless you prefer Coleman Price? She kissed me right there in front of the cleanup crew, 3 board members, and a photographer from Buffalo Business Magazine. Price Coleman sounds perfect. 2 weeks later, we sat in our new office space overlooking the marina, reviewing contracts for 3 upcoming events. The morning light streaming through our windows caught the engagement ring on Mackenzie's left hand. Not because we were getting married, but because she decided she was tired of people assuming she was available. The Albright Knox wants us to handle their annual donor reception, she reported, scrolling through emails. And the Buffalo Philharmonic is interested in a harbor concert series. What about the Medical Center Foundation? They want to discuss a partnership for their new wing fundraiser. 500 guests, black tie, unlimited budget. I leaned back in my chair, still adjusting to the idea that we'd actually pulled this off. 6 months ago, we were tiptoeing around each other in yacht club meetings. Now we were building something that belonged entirely to us. Any regrets? I asked. About what? Leaving the yacht club presidency. Giving up the security, the status. Taking a risk on us. She looked up from her laptop, green eyes serious. Do you know what I called myself for 32 years? Mackenzie Price, yacht club president. Or Mackenzie Price, maritime professional. Or Mackenzie Price, successful businesswoman. And now? Now I'm Mackenzie Price, the woman who chose love over fear. The woman who built something beautiful with someone she adores. The woman who wakes up every morning excited about work because she's doing it with her best friend and partner. She stood, moving around the desk to perch on my chair arm. Do you know what that's worth? Everything? More than everything. Her fingers traced lazy patterns on my blouse. It's worth the kind of happiness I didn't know existed. When she kissed me this time, it tasted like possibility, like shared dreams and mutual ambition, like the kind of love that makes everything else worth fighting for. Outside our window, sailboats moved across Buffalo Harbor like white prayers against the blue sky. 6 months ago, I thought success meant surviving in someone else's world, playing by rules that never quite fit. Now I knew better. Success meant creating your own world, with someone who understood that love and ambition weren't competitors but collaborators. So what's next for Price Coleman? I asked, lips still tingling from her kiss. World domination, she said seriously. Starting with the Buffalo social scene and expanding from there. Modest goals. I don't do modest. You should know that by now. I pulled her down for another kiss, thinking about floating platforms and harbor lights, about courage and consequences, about the way love could transform not just hearts but entire futures. Good thing I don't either. 6 months after that transformative gala night, I stood on the deck of Mackenzie's 30-foot sailboat, watching Buffalo's skyline shimmer in the late afternoon sun. Price Coleman Event Consulting had exceeded every projection we'd dared to make. The Kleinhans Music Hall contract came through, Mackenzie called from the galley below. They want us to handle their entire season launch series. I smiled, adjusting the sail lines with movements that had become second nature. She'd been teaching me to sail, and I'd been teaching her that success didn't require sacrificing everything else you valued. What about the corporate retreat for Roswell Park? Confirmed. 3 days at the Finger Lakes, full event management, executive team building activities. Her head appeared in the companionway, blonde hair tousled by lake breeze. We're officially booked solid through next spring. The irony wasn't lost on me. 6 months ago, I'd been desperate for steady work. Now we were turning down clients. Sometimes I can't believe this is real, I admitted, watching her climb onto the deck with 2 glasses of champagne. Which part? The business success or us? All of it. The fact that we took the biggest risk of our lives and it actually worked out. She handed me a glass, settling beside me on the cockpit cushions. You know what the secret was? What? We stopped trying to choose between love and ambition. We figured out how to use them together. The setting sun painted the harbor in shades of gold and amber. Other boats dotted the water, weekend sailors enjoying the perfect September weather. But our little corner of Lake Erie felt private, intimate, like a world made just for us. I have something for you, Mackenzie said, reaching into the cabin to retrieve a wrapped package. It's not my birthday. It's better than a birthday. Open it. Inside the elegant wrapping was a leather portfolio embossed with our business logo and my name. But it wasn't empty. It contained contracts, letterhead, business cards, and official documentation. Mackenzie Price and Bethany Coleman, equal partners. I read from the legal documents. What is this? It's making it official. Equal partnership in everything. The business, the profits, the decisions. No more senior partner, no more hierarchy, just us, building something together. My throat tightened with emotion. You don't have to do this. You founded the company, you have more experience. I have more experience playing it safe. You have the vision, the creativity, the courage to dream bigger than I ever imagined. She took my hands, green eyes serious. This only works if we're true equals in everything. The champagne bubbled forgotten as I leaned forward to kiss her. This woman who'd risked her entire career for love, who'd stood up to blackmail and scandal to protect what we were building together. Equal partners, I whispered against her lips. In everything. We made love that evening as the boat rocked gently at anchor, windows open to the lake breeze, and the distant sound of other boats heading back to harbor. She touched me like I was precious, like I was worth everything she'd sacrificed, and I tried to show her through kisses and whispered words how completely she'd transformed my understanding of what was possible. Later, lying tangled in the narrow bunk below deck, she traced patterns on my bare shoulder. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd played it safe? If we'd listened to all the warnings about workplace relationships and career suicide? Sometimes, I admitted. Do you? I think we would have been safer. More secure. Probably successful in conventional ways. But we would have been miserable. We would have spent our lives wondering what if, watching other people take the risks we were too afraid to take. I turned to face her, studying the face that had become as familiar as my own reflection. Any regrets? Just one. My stomach clenched. What? I regret waiting so long to tell you I loved you. I regret all those weeks we wasted pretending we didn't want this. Relief flowed through me like warm honey. We weren't ready then. We needed the struggle to appreciate what we have now. Maybe. Or maybe I just needed to learn that love isn't about control. It's about trust. About believing that someone else's happiness is worth risking your own security. The boat rocked gently in the evening swells, Buffalo's lights beginning to twinkle across the water. In a few hours, we'd sail back to harbor, back to our shared apartment, back to the business we'd built from audacity and mutual respect. But right now, wrapped in Mackenzie's arms with the lake stretching endlessly around us, I felt like we could sail anywhere, do anything, overcome any obstacle as long as we faced it together. What are you thinking about? She murmured, fingers threading through my hair. The future, our future. All the adventures we haven't had yet. Such as? Expanding the business to other cities. Taking on bigger challenges. Maybe buying our own boat instead of borrowing yours. She laughed, the sound rich and contented. Our boat. Equal partners, remember. Our boat, then. Our business. Our life together. Sounds perfect. As the stars appeared overhead, reflected in the dark water around us, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. From that first confrontation over gala budgets to this moment of perfect contentment, we'd navigated storms that could have sunk us both. Instead, we'd learned to sail together, to trust each other with everything that mattered, to build something stronger than either of us could have created alone. The woman beside me had taught me that love wasn't a weakness or a distraction from ambition. It was fuel for becoming everything you never dared to dream you could be. And tomorrow, we'd wake up ready to prove that lesson all over again.